Today is the Crafting for Cause challenge, and I'm back with another quick and easy Dollar Tree DIY. I've got a Kirkland dupe that I'm creating for about 1/10 of the price of the original using Dollar Tree materials. So snuggle up with a blanket and your favorite warm drink while I show you how to get the look for less. So, as I mentioned, today is all about achieving the look for less. I saw this Sleep in Heavenly Peace sign at Kirkland's the other day and really liked the modern farmhouse look to it. The original price was $29.99, but I think I can recreate it for about $3 in Dollar Tree supplies, along with some existing supplies from my stash. I started with 3 of the Dollar Tree long board signs. These were from their Halloween decor, but they have these year-round in different styles, and they're all roughly the same size. When placed together, they're about 17 inches wide, and I had my husband cut off about 5 inches from the top so that the sign would be about 19 inches tall. I turned them over and laid them side by side, and then used large craft sticks I got from Walmart to attach the 3 boards together. To minimize the appearance of the lines between the boards, I used a tiny bit of spackling. I just applied it with my finger and then wiped away the excess with a baby wipe. You can still see the lines a little bit, but if you look closely at the Kirkland's original, there is a line between 2 boards on theirs as well. Next, I gave my sign a quick coat of the plaster color by Waverly. I love Waverly chalk paint because it's really thick, so coverage takes fewer coats. Especially on these Dollar Tree boards, this only took 1 coat to get good coverage. Once that was dry, I gave my sign a slight distressing with my elephant color by Waverly. I used a dry brush and dabbed most of the paint off before lightly brushing onto the surface. This doesn't color the board, it just gives it some slight dimension. When looking at the original Kirkland's piece, you'll see that there is a brown painted border to it, and it's not perfectly straight. I think it's meant to look like someone used a roller to paint the white over some old boards, but I thought it would be faster to paint the whole thing white first and then paint the edges. I originally started with my nutmeg brown color from Apple Barrel Paints, but then I thought it looked too orangey, so I ended up mixing in some of the elephant color to the nutmeg, and I went over the original color, and I feel like the resulting finish was spot on to the Kirkland's piece. While I'm painting, I'll mention that today's challenge is hosted by Teresa from Teresa B DIY and co-hosted by Lynn from Hot Mess and Hot Glue. I'll have a link to their channels as well as the playlist in the description box below, but most of all I want to mention the cause that they are highlighting this month called Heart Support. I'll provide a link to their website in the description box as well, and we'll be sharing a little more about Heart Support later on in this video. If you have a Cricut, you could use that to add the wording to the sign, but I prefer making things harder for myself. Transferring by hand for a more authentically old farmhouse look. I used a picture of the original and printed it out in the size I needed using my computer and printer, and then used my Arteza carbon paper to transfer it to my sign. A trick I learned for getting the perfect transfer for large writing that won't fit on one printer page is to crop the picture of the words as close to the edges of the writing as possible. Open up your word processing program and insert the picture of the full sign. Click on Size and Dimensions and set the width to the maximum width for your board, which in this case is 17 inches. I take note of what the computer changes the height to, and then I go back and chop the picture up into sections. I always overlap the sections by 1 letter. So for example, I made one section for HEA and then another one for AVE and so on. I insert each of the sections separately into my Word document and size them to the exact height that the full-length word was in the previous step. Once the sections were printed out, it was easy to line them up because I could just overlap the extra letters so that the word was perfectly aligned. And now you see me using a graphite colored twistable crayon from my Boys' Craft Stash to go over the smaller words. In the original Kirkland's piece, the word heavenly is made from large gauge metal, but I thought I could mimic the look using twine. I cut a long length of Dollar Tree jute twine, and I definitely intended to overshoot the length so that I wouldn't come up short, but I think the piece was probably about 7 feet long, which was about 3 feet longer than it needed to be. Here you see me burning off the little wispies from the twine using a lighter. It probably wasn't the best decision to do this over a large piece of butcher paper, so keep that in mind, but luckily I didn't start any fires. Next I used the elephant color to paint my twine. I will say that this was pretty tedious and took a few steps of painting one side, letting it dry, then turning it and painting another side. Spray paint might have been faster, but I didn't have any in the color I wanted. And I'm sure gray twine is also available from Amazon, so you could save yourself some time that way too. But by the time I thought of that, I was already invested in the hand painting. Then I used hot glue to attach the twine to the board. I did small sections at a time so that I could be extra precise with my glue gun and only make really thin lines so that it wasn't super visible. I had never heard of Heart Support before, but I checked out their website and learned that they're a non-profit organization offering mental health services to people struggling with suicidal thoughts, depression, addiction, and other adversity. Again, I'll have a link to their website in the description box below. And if you feel led, you can make a donation, but I truly hope that regardless of making a donation that you check out their website so you can learn more. And I want to thank Teresa and Lynn for sharing Heart Support and allowing me to learn more about them. Once the twine was glued down, the sign was complete. And here's the final sign in my living room. I just love how this turned out, and I think it looks very similar to the original. And even if you figure $4 in materials due to the pricing increase at Dollar Tree, I still consider this a win. Thanks for joining me today. If you found me from the Crafting for Cause playlist, I'd love for you to stick around and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell so you can stay up to date with my content. I have some last-minute gift ideas coming soon that you won't want to miss, so keep your eye out for that. See you next time. Bye.